little pups who make noises, and there's one right there on the screen. Yeah, love it, love it, love it. And that is so perfect for what we're talking about next. Would you please introduce our next speaker?
I now have the pleasure of introducing Miss Joanne Williams. Joanne, LCSW, is a 30-year licensed therapist focusing on anxiety reduction and confidence building. She specializes in guiding clients step by step through the ADA process to use their own dog as a psychiatric service dog. Her counseling session instills tools and strategies that go well beyond traditional therapy. She is also the author of a children's book, Superdog Helps Boys' Fears, a book written to help families talk about emotions. She hosts a top 100 podcast, Anxiety Simplified. Welcome, Joanne. It is a pleasure to see you again. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So, just like many of our other speakers, we know, but others don't. Why this passion? What is it about service dogs and getting people with anxiety into a space where they can really move and function? Why is that so super important to you?
Yeah, I love that question. Well, I think I started life as a very sensitive kid that was not understood, maybe hyper aware, or I think today it'd be called neurodivergent with dyslexia and living in a chaotic and abusive home. And so it just didn't make sense to me, none of this life stuff. So it did create a lot of extreme anxiety and feeling unsafe within that environment. And really kind of throughout my life until as a lifelong learner, I had to go to counseling. I had to learn what is this? It becomes it's them, not me, kind of a way to look at this. And I really feel like understanding this really turned this into my greatest strength as a therapist because I can intuitively now connect with people and animals. And that's kind of how I fell into this about service dogs. But I also want our audience to understand that 20% of the population have anxiety. It's the number one mental health issue. So kids are not immune, and parents are not immune to this. And so that's why I came up, or this talk today is about really three powerful ways that we can talk about anxiety, shy, you might call it, or avoidant children, and how maybe an animal might be able to help with that. And I think the other thing I want to kind of clarify or share, because some of our speakers, which have all been really great and really right on about so many things, but I think anxiety gets misunderstood. And it could even look like defiance. Or they just got an attitude or they're trying to manipulate. But really, it's a nervous system issue that's asking for help. And so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about emotional regulation first, like many of our other guests have today. For the parent to get emotionally regulated first in those frustrating, angry, oh my God, I don't know what to do in this moment. If you could pause to be able before redirection. And the 4 and 8 breathing is one of the the breath that I really guide every single client through. And it's so simple. And maybe we'll do it when we're on the panel. I know that was
No,
one of the
if
things
if we're going to do it, we want to do it now.
And
all
the
right,
funny thing
let's
about
do it.
breathing is people have been doing it all their life, so they think they know what they're doing.
Imagine. Yeah, I breathe,
I breathe.
right?
What do you mean I need to learn how to breathe? Look, I'm breathing. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's do it then, because I'll tell you, this has really been a secret weapon that I have found with parents, because it's like, how do you get out of that frustration in that moment? Or that even if you're escalating to anger? Because I feel like what this breathing does, we live probably maybe right here in our anxiety level, but one thing, that's it. I feel like this 4 and 8 breathing brings us down with accumulation of calm, at least to here and hopefully lower, but then we can handle more. And what this is, and it only takes 1 minute. That's what the secret is to do your own self regulation or co regulation with a child. You are teaching, you are modeling. And all it is breathing in through your nose, literally counting in your head 4, and breathing out your mouth and counting 8 backwards.
Okay, let's
Love
do
to
it.
do it. 1 minute. All I want you to do, I'll do the counting and all that. You don't have to do anything except notice how you feel before and after, and where in your body or your mind you notice this. Because this was medical research, and the research is looking for that combination of inhale, exhale that would send a calming chemical in. So you can literally feel it. So I want you to notice,
If you're
okay?
brave, put in the chat right now where you are on a scale from 1 to 10 about being like kind of calm. 10 means that you are the most not calm, right? And 1, you're super, super calm. I think I probably did that backwards. But anyway, if you feel like it,
That's
put
a
it in
great,
the chat. Where are you today?
If you're not sure, just
good
put
idea.
5.
Yeah. And in your body and your mind, because sometimes it's our minds just like, well, that's anxiety to me, or overthinking. It could be in your body. Oh, I got to go do this and I got to, so it could be either. I'll walk you through it. 5 rounds is 1 minute. So
All right,
that's
let's
how
do it.
quickly you can do this. Okay.
Okay.
So breathe in through your nose, and I close my eyes because I want to just feel into this. So same thing if you feel comfortable. So breathe in through your nose, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Out your mouth, counting 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In your nose, counting 4. Out your mouth, counting 8 backwards. Breathe in through your nose. Out your mouth. Breathe in your nose. Nice and deep as you can. Breathe out your mouth. Breathe in your nose. Breathe out your mouth. One more time. Breathe in through your nose, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Out your mouth, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then just notice what you notice. Is it more in your body? Is it more in your head? And if you want to put in the chat what you feel or that number again, because what I consistently hear from clients is like, oh, it stops my thinking, which is a key because that's what this mind is always doing. So it can stop the
Overthink,
thinking
right?
and, or it gives me a clarity. I swear it's like, oh, I can see things clearer. Or I hear all the time, oh yeah, I feel it in my shoulders. And if you might have noticed, my numbers slowed down even as I was counting them. But you get a lot of people feel in their shoulders
Yeah.
or in other places in their body that this can work again in 1 minute. Because the medical researcher is actually looking for something that would send a calming chemical in. And what they found when people practice this, and they say 3 times a day. I think at morning, noon, and night, or at meals, or when you're on actually the porcelain throne, is a real good reminder to just sit there and breathe and do this. Because when they did, it helps with sleep, Herb. So if you want to try this even at night and you just do the counting, and so it will help send the common chemical in, and then you can't be thinking as you
Yeah.
do it. Help with depression, anxiety, and it also even helped with memory recall. It helps lower your blood pressure and your heart rate. We know anything that does that is going to be helping in the body. So lots of medical research on. You can see the medical research on this if you're interested.
Right. So I've heard a statement that depression is dwelling on the past and anxiety is thinking on the future. And so if you're counting your breaths and you're focusing on that and you close your eyes and you're feeling it, then again, you're not either thinking or remembering. And so that is why it
Part
can
of
help
that
with both. And
connection.
then it brings in who I
Yes.
when you're worried, it brings in norepinephrine. So I'm trying to think of what the counter to that is. And I'm not bringing it up at the moment, but I used to know that information. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you know what I hear it does? It stimulates the vagus nerve, which is our major nerve to calm us.
yeah. And
So
so when I was
anytime we're
doing that, I was
singing
also tapping.
and tapping, you can do that as well. But I call it resets. Out of that overthink, oh my God, I got to do this. Oh, or that kiddo in the moment who is also spinning out, you reset. Then it doesn't feel so intense in that moment with the kiddo. And then you can get back out of your thinking or emotions that probably at that point frustrated, angry, or upset into your logic of, okay, let's sit and listen. What is it that you're trying to tell me? But I can only hear it when you're using a soft voice. I just can't hear it when it's like that. And let's both calm down together. So it's been a phenomenal way. And I work with mostly post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms or with adverse childhood effects. And so this can take you out of some of that spiraling really quickly.
And yeah, and I love this because we want our kids to get out of that and get settled and everything else.
Quickly.
But yeah, and into the doggies, right? Because we have these kiddos who are up there and anxious and things like that. We have adults
Yeah.
that are up there anxious and things like that. And there's been so, I don't know, in my view, sometimes controversy over using our pets as a service dog because a lot of it is misunderstood, right? Or we have those pets who are labeled as service dogs and they're not really behaving very well in public places, so it kind of gives kind of a bad light or a bad feel about that.
We
So
actually belong to a vacation club, and one of the places that we went to was like, oh yeah, we don't let those fake service dogs in here. They have to provide like the certification of their dog that it's trained and all of that
yeah,
before we even let them into our stuff. And it's like, wow, that was really, first of all, it was kind of weird that they told me that because we didn't have our dog.
You can't.
yeah,
But yeah, so
yeah.
again, that thought of explain that. Why can't
All right. I'd love to. Because my second point is about connection.
Mhm.
Because that to me is the key with our families and our kids, and is shown through research. The four riskiest behaviors can be between the age of 7 and 11, can be actually under control for adolescents because they connect with their families or school or with an animal. And so part of that is, what do you do to be able to do that? Have an animal legally with you everywhere. And the thing I want to say to even our audience, about 50% of the population already have a dog in their home.
Mhm.
So probably 50%. Tell me if you've got a dog, and it could be any animal for an emotional support animal. To be a psychiatric service dog, it is only dogs. But audience, how many have pets? Are you using them as a tool in your home to calm the environment that you're in? It's already been researched and well known. That's why 20 airports already use dogs. They walk around and they're known to calm the whole environment. So let's talk about maybe how you could use your own dog that you've already got as a tool in your home. Because I think, and I'll show you my little guy, because those kind of misinformations that you're talking about, I think I got a lot because I found out about this through as an emotional support animals about 13 years ago when I was on a plane panicking, and the stewardess came up and told me, do you know if you got a letter from your therapist, you could have him on your lap the entire time? And I'm like, I've been a therapist for 20 years and didn't know about this. So that's when I got first an emotional support animal, and we could fly with them. And then about 6 years ago, it changed. But it still is three laws. The Fair Housing Act, the FHA, that most of us know about. There's loans and all that stuff. There's a law that states you can have any animal. Could be a cat, could be a chicken. It could be anything, but it has to do one of three things. It has to help you either with a daily function. It could be sleep, concentration. It could be getting out more. Could be you can go to work and concentrate better. So it depends. So that law's been around for 58 years and nobody knows about it. Then the flying law that you could fly. Now it changed 6 years ago, and it's only dogs. And they're taking the definition from the third law, the Americans with Disabilities Act law, that's been around for 38 years. And that one, the definition to be a psychiatric service dog is that they must recognize, respond, and reduce a psychological symptom. Mostly, again, 20% have anxiety. Some people have depression. So there's lots of different ways. Think about our kiddos too that are neurodivergent. They may not socially connect, or they don't connect with others or read, body language or other cues. I'm telling you, it becomes an intuitive way of communicating. Think about it. Dogs and horses, dogs are herd animals or pack animals. And what do? They take care of each other,
Yeah.
right? In a pack. You are a pack in your household. But are you noticing? And this is the question I have. Are you noticing that maybe when one of the kiddos or whatever, or you are getting emotionally stimulated, do they come over? Do they lean into you? Do they put their head on your lap? Do they jump in your lap? And does that calm you? That's recognize, respond, and reduce. And the misinformation that you're talking about is prevalent everywhere. I get it. Oh, you're gaming the system. How can this little dog be a service dog? It's got to be, a big dog that can be for blindness or medical reasons. It does not. Emotional disabilities have always been in the law, but they're invisible disabilities. Somebody doesn't see that you're anxious because they're trying to hide it every way,
Smiling
shape,
and
and
talking
form.
to you calmly because this dog is in my arms. Would you like me to go put it away and come back in a couple hours? And you can see how I'll deal with you then.
It's intuitive. This is something that we all have as animals. And we are an animal too. We don't always look at it like that, but we have an intuition. But we don't use it in our households to see that what is the dog doing? And that's what I'll say a lot of times to clients. What is your dog noticing? Oh, yeah, he does come over when I get in. All right. And then what happens? Are you recognizing and going, good boy, good girl, or giving a treat to reinforce that behavior so he consistently does that? That can be considered trained to do a task under the Americans with Disabilities Act law.
Yep, exactly. And we have one. All right, she's coming in right now. This one.
And gets up on you. And that's what you call applying pressure therapy. Petting, and this is another one for kiddos that get overstimulated. Petting an animal, they've already proven that that will lower cortisol rates and calm. So that could just be a simple emotional regulation tool just to calm, is just to pet. And I'll tell you, the other thing I see with a lot of younger kids, it's building responsibility. It's understanding what it takes to take care of an animal. It's not just you. The doggy has to eat. Are you learning skills to be responsible? And so a dog can be that in so many different ways. And I wish we would all just hear that there's lots of ways to do that.
One of the things that reminds me of so much is that we actually had a teacher in the building I worked in, and she would help to do the beginning stage training for guide dog puppies. So that's a lot of socialization and things like that. And she would bring them into the classroom with her. And of course, they couldn't say no because she was in the middle of training for being a guide dog puppy. But the way that class reacted when the dog was in, right? They would focus, right? Because she would say, you need to be calm for the dog so that they get used to not be scared of you moving around, things like that. And then when it was quiet reading time, guess what? They would beg, can I sit by the dog today while I read? And they would be more engaged in their reading because the dog was there. So all of those kinds of things that we know, and unfortunately the school district has since then said that's not appropriate. We can't bring them in anymore because of allergies and stuff. But at the same time, it's like, think about the animal in your home, right? Or in somebody else's home and how they can help calm.
And our brought up about behaviors, and I think this is important to state too, that dogs not only have to do the recognize, respond, and reduce, but they also have to be behaviorally trained. They have to be under your control at all times. Or if they bark, come on, dogs are animal, they do bark, but then you have to be able to say, enough, it's okay, it's safe. And that's what it's not that they are perfect or that they're not going to be a dog or act in some ways that a dog does. Some dogs bark because that is an issue that you're dealing with about safety. And
Mhm.
these little guys, he's part Maltese. These guys were bred for the Malta Queen to alert if somebody was coming to the queen. So they were actually
Danger.
trained to bark to say, uh-oh, alarm, alarm. And so, yeah, they bark.
Yeah. And that's something that I have to get over, right? Because I'm like, oh, it's kind of like parenting. I want my kid to behave in the right way in the
All the
right
time, all the
situation. I
time.
want my dog to behave in the right way in the right situation. And then I have to let go of it myself because I'm
Yeah,
actually causing it because they're reading me.
Yeah, we've been in
yeah.
dog parks with lots of dogs around barking.
Mm,
Our dog starts barking and she's like, quiet. And is like, no, dog.
yeah. And let me tell you about the process. I think that's the
Yeah.
other piece. People get really think it's this is really a hard process. What I do, and done for 13 years, I do 2 sessions with somebody. The first session is about the emotional symptoms that the dog helps with the task. So I have to identify and diagnose, anxiety. Most clients are the first step with PTSD to get outside and do more. They'll do a dog. They may not do therapy because they're into avoidant, but they'll do a dog to fly with and do things. And so we identify that and what the task is the dog is trained to do. And the second session I do that's different is that I do a training for the client. What do you say? Because there's 2 questions that can be asked. And so you got to know what you do are required by law to respond to. There's an I-line form that you do have to complete. So I do that because that's anxiety producing for a lot of people. So I go down through that. There's a CDC form if you're going to come back into the country. And there's also what to say if somebody tries to refuse you, kind of like what you did.
Yeah.
Because truly, if you understand what the law states, you state facts. I also supply a little ID card that people can make it easy to go in and to a hotel or whatever restaurant, and you just show that this because you shouldn't be paying any extra fees in housing or at hotels, or you could bring them to work. And that's where I think the school may even be wrong. If this is a service dog for even a child or a teacher, by law, they can bring them in. But again, they have to be under their control at all times and help for the task.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is so very, very important. I really appreciate the way you do those 2 different sessions, right? First of all, understanding what the person really needs, and then that extra training back and forth, because then people are more informed, right? And so instead of people just
Right.
getting all TikTok, oh, yeah, it is this my service dog. I got this thing off the internet, whatever. They can explain it calmly and say, no, I've been through this process, this process. Here's my card.
Yeah.
Simple,
I
easy.
think that is
So
important too.
Yeah.
as Stanley did the color things, I would be
I know.
the golden kid. So my
I love
thought would
those
be like,
colors.
oh, people are allergic to dogs. They don't want the dogs in the hotel because then they have to do extra cleaning and blah 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 because the next person might be allergic. And so that would make me feel guilty or not want to do
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of that. How does a person or a child like that reconcile that this thing that comforts me might actually be a discomfort to somebody else?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What would you say to somebody in a wheelchair that just maybe got some mud on their wheels as they came into the hotel?
It's okay. It happens.
It's it's a disability. This is a visible disability, and
Put
you're
in your wheel,
entitled.
wipe off your
But
shoes.
and the dog again, yeah. but it's accommodating you because or your child because they have a disability. We have to make some accommodations. Same for somebody on crutches. It's not convenient to be behind somebody slowly inching their way down, but we accommodate them and we have compassion and understanding. There are invisible disabilities too that you can't see. And that becomes kind of the discrimination about anxiety or other depression or PTSD. You can't see it. And so we don't understand. Please just have compassion, is what I would say.
Beautiful. Thank you. This has been so enlightening. And like many others, we could go on, but we want to make sure that our audience hears your free gift and your VIP gift. And thank you for being here
Love
today.
to. Oh, thank you, everybody. Well, what I have is a guide that I want. It's really for parents, but it's called Parenting Power Moves, and it's a toolkit for every age and stage that really goes all the way from biting, hitting, to bedtime struggles, to safety in teens, about building responsible behavior. And it's just a practical workbook that can give parents real tools in moments with scripts, what to say and what to do for all kinds of things in your life, because it's hard as a parent. And I was like, what was that good thing I was supposed to be doing? You got a workbook that you can look at.
Okay.
And my VIP one is actually a book. It's actually a little book about how to take your dog everywhere with you legally that answers 99% of your questions about how to do that for everywhere stores or no pet housing. And I call it the truth about taking your dog everywhere and understanding even about emotional support animals, because I think that's a real simple one for people to have in housing, with a child that maybe is autistic. And in my book, I also have a book that goes into stories about how to use these, maybe with a chicken that wanders into the yard that helps an autistic kid build friendships. So there's a lot of real good tips in how to do that.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you.
just as my little dog settled down in my lap and I'm scritching her, it came to mind that you can't tell off camera, but she can. Almost the entire time I'm here, I am like this and I'm rubbing my fingers because there's a lot of body sensations through my arms. It's very brain damage sucks. Protect your head. So I sit all day long and go like this. And then when she's in my lap, it's like it becomes a much more gentle stroking, and it saves my, because now my hands are tingling, and so yeah, that is that
I'm
just
telling you, Herb, do that 4 and 8. I really want to hear some good results from you doing that because that will help physically. And then moving that energy too, doing something that really kind of moves some of this energy for you, I think would be really helpful.
Yeah.
I wrote a book on breathing and I taught it for a little while, so it's like I've got a lot of
We
different
just need to
breathing
get him
patterns.
doing it
I
again.
just don't do
Three
it as
times a day.
consistently as I
Three
ought.
times a day.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Joanne, so much for being here and giving us such great concrete knowledge, because this is about empowering families and rethinking education. So we get the empowering families of what they can do with a service dog, with the breathing techniques, all those things. We had that part. And then we had the rethink education, expanding our brain. What is possible for our families? So thank you so very much for being here. Audience, this is our longer break. We have a little bit of extra time to make sure you go get some outside, get grounded, get something else to drink, et cetera, et cetera. Be back at 20 to the hour at 12:40 for us for our panel, where we have some experts coming up to talk about, oh, where'd it go? There we go. Regulation first, the foundation of family connections, behavior, and learning. So we're going to bring back some of our morning speakers, and we have some of our afternoon speakers joining us as well. So be back in a little while, but please go take care of you. Bye for now.